In the bustling heart of Chicago, the annual charity gala was in full swing. The grand ballroom of the Hilton shimmered with golden lights, and the air was filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. Among the crowd, a group of board members gathered around a table, their conversation punctuated by playful banter. "Looks like the chairman is quite taken with his new wife," one of the members joked, a smirk on his face. "I mean, it's his last great love, after all." The others chuckled, but there was an undercurrent of envy in their laughter. As the evening wore on, the restroom break offered a moment of respite, and the whispers continued. "Can you believe he's 75 and still so spry? I wonder how long this new marriage will last," another voice speculated. The comment stung, and tears threatened to spill as she overheard their words. Just then, her husband, Kenji, appeared at her side, concern etched on his face. "Reiko, are you okay? You look pale," he said, his voice low and soothing. "I'm fine, just a bit tired," she replied, forcing a smile. Kenji wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "I'm sorry for putting you through this. But being with you makes me feel alive again," he confessed, his words resonating deeply within her. Reiko's heart fluttered at his sincerity. It was clear he loved her, even if his expressions sometimes felt overwhelming. Later that evening, as they returned home, an unexpected visitor arrived, Dr. Sato, Kenji's physician. His serious demeanor immediately put Reiko on edge. "Kenji, we need to talk," Dr. Sato began, his tone grave. "There are concerns regarding your health. You had a mild heart attack 3 years ago, and while it's under control with medication, you need to be cautious." Reiko's heart sank. She had no idea Kenji was dealing with such a serious condition. "Shouldn't we limit the activities tonight?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Moderation is key. A few times a week is fine, but daily? That could be risky," Dr. Sato advised. "Please, take care of yourself, Reiko. Keep him in check." After the doctor left, Reiko wrestled with her thoughts. Should she confront Kenji about this? That night, as they settled into their bedroom, Kenji leaned closer. "Reiko, will you wait for me tonight?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. Gathering her courage, she stopped him. "Kenji, I heard about your heart condition. You need to be careful." His expression darkened. "Dr. Sato shouldn't have said anything," he muttered. "It's not just about you anymore. We have limited time together, and I don't want to waste it," he insisted, his voice filled with urgency. "But if you push yourself too hard, it could backfire," she countered gently. Kenji fell silent, his gaze drifting away. "Meeting you made me feel alive for the first time. If I were to die tomorrow, I wouldn't regret a thing." "Please don't say that," Reiko pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. His willingness to risk everything for love was both beautiful and terrifying. That night, they simply held each other, finding solace in their embrace. Reiko pondered how to navigate this intense love and protect it. Little did she know, a storm was brewing on the horizon. A week passed, and they began to establish a new rhythm. Days were quiet, while nights were reserved for intimacy, albeit more restrained. Still, Kenji seemed restless, but Reiko continued to reassure him it was for his health. One rainy afternoon, as the soft patter of droplets echoed against the window, Kenji was busy at work while Reiko picked up her long-neglected knitting. It felt nostalgic, the rhythm of the needles bringing back memories. Suddenly, Kenji emerged from his office, an old photo album in hand. "You have to see this," he said, sitting beside her. As he flipped through the pages, Reiko saw pictures of a younger Kenji, dressed sharply in a suit, exuding confidence. "You were quite the catch," she teased, admiring the photos. Yeah, but I was a terrible husband, he replied, his voice suddenly somber. In the album, a beautiful woman appeared, his late wife, Misako. She passed away 10 years ago, he added quietly. I know. She was Sachiko's mother, Reiko said softly, sensing the weight of his memories. Reiko, I need to tell you something, Kenji said, staring out the window. I took over the family business at 30 after my father fell ill. For 45 years, I lived for work. I barely came home, and when I did, I was too exhausted to connect with anyone. Reiko listened intently, her heart aching for him. I forgot our anniversary once. Misako had prepared a special dinner, but I was too busy. She spent it alone, he continued, his voice breaking. Tears glistened in Reiko's eyes as she imagined the loneliness he must have felt. You missed out on so much, she whispered. When I got sick, it hit me hard. I realized I had sacrificed everything for a business that didn't love me back. Misako forgave me, but she never truly opened her heart again, he said, regret heavy in his tone. I want to prioritize you now, to spend my remaining time loving you fiercely, he confessed, taking her hand. I wanted to give you everything I couldn't give her. Kenji, I appreciate your feelings, but I'm not Misako. I'm here for you, and we can take our time, Reiko reassured him. He looked into her eyes, a mix of gratitude and love shining through. Will you stay with someone like me? Of course. You're an incredible person. Just remember to pace yourself, she smiled, feeling a connection deepen between them. As they shared a laugh, the peaceful sound of rain enveloped them. It felt like a moment of understanding, a bridge built between their hearts. But just then, their friend Yuta burst into the room, panic etched across his face. Kenji, we have a problem. What is it? Kenji asked, alarmed. Sachiko was in an accident. She's at the hospital. Kenji's face drained of color. What? We need to go now. In the car, Reiko could feel Kenji's hand trembling. It's going to be okay, she assured him, squeezing his hand tightly. But his grip remained unsteady, fear evident in his eyes. At the hospital, they rushed to the intensive care unit, where Sachiko lay unconscious. Kenji's heart shattered as he saw his daughter in distress. I'm so sorry, Sachiko. I was in a meeting when this happened, he sobbed, guilt consuming him. It's not your fault, Dad. It was my mistake, Sachiko whispered weakly, managing a faint smile. Thank you for being here, she added, her eyes glistening with tears. Of course, we're family, Reiko said, her heart swelling with warmth. In that moment, the accident became a catalyst for change, reshaping their family dynamics. But unbeknownst to them, greater trials awaited, as Kenji's past regrets and their present love converged toward an unforeseen climax. As a nurse, Reiko had witnessed countless struggles, but nothing could prepare her for the challenges that lay ahead. The bonds of love would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined. The annual gala of the Thompson Foundation was a highly anticipated event held at a luxurious downtown hotel in Chicago. Over 300 prominent figures gathered for this grand occasion, dressed to the nines in elegant attire. Among them was Emily, who wore a stunning emerald green gown that hugged her figure perfectly, accentuating her grace. Her husband, Mark, couldn't take his eyes off her. You look absolutely breathtaking tonight, he said, his voice low and filled with admiration. But there was an intensity in his gaze that made her heart race, a hint of something possessive. Mark, remember, this is a formal event. Let's keep it professional, she replied with a teasing smile, though she felt a thrill at his attention. I know, he said, but as they entered the venue, he wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close as they greeted the other guests. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, how lovely to see you, a fellow board member exclaimed, and Mark took the opportunity to showcase their closeness, his hand resting possessively on her hip. As the evening progressed, flashes from cameras illuminated the room, capturing every moment. Mr. Thompson, could you share how you and your wife met? Has your life changed since your marriage? A reporter asked, and before Emily could respond, Mark leaned down and kissed her hand, a bold gesture that drew gasps from the crowd. What are you doing? Emily whispered, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment as she felt the weight of everyone's gaze. Just showing my love for my wife, he replied with a satisfied smile, his eyes sparkling with mischief. But just then, their daughter, Sarah, wheeled in, still recovering from her recent accident. She looked at her father with a mixture of concern and disappointment. Dad, you're overdoing it, she said, her voice cold and steady. Are you feeling all right, honey? Mark asked, his expression shifting to worry. I'm fine, but you should be more careful. This isn't just about you, she replied, her tone sharp. Your displays of affection are just for show. Emily felt a pang of guilt at Sarah's words. I'm happy, really. I love being with your father, she reassured her daughter, but the tension in the air was palpable. Mom, you're not okay. You look exhausted, Sarah said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I remember how much Mom struggled with Dad's selfishness. It's not just love, it's suffocating. Mark fell silent, the weight of his daughter's words hanging heavily in the air. The reporters, sensing the tension, shifted their focus, eager for a story. I need some air, Emily said, feeling overwhelmed. She slipped away to the restroom, taking deep breaths in front of the mirror. Sarah was right, Mark's love could be overwhelming at times, but she also knew it was genuine. Are you all right? Yuta, a close friend, asked as he approached her, concern etched on his face. I'm just a bit tired, she admitted. Mark loves me, but sometimes his way of showing it is too much. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the main hall. Emily rushed back to find Mark collapsed on the floor, pale and clutching his chest. Panic surged through her as she rushed to his side, checking his pulse. Stay with me, Mark. Please, she cried, her heart racing. Call an ambulance, she shouted, her nurse instincts kicking in. She began administering CPR, her hands trembling as she fought to keep her composure. Mark, can you hear me? I'm right here, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Sarah knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face. Dad, please. Don't leave us. As the ambulance arrived, Emily felt a rush of fear. They loaded Mark onto a stretcher, and she and Sarah climbed into the back, holding on to each other tightly. Everything will be okay, Emily whispered, though her heart was pounding with dread. At the hospital, Mark was taken straight to the intensive care unit. Emily and Sarah waited in the waiting room, the silence heavy with unspoken fears. I'm so sorry, Sarah said suddenly, her voice breaking. I didn't mean to upset you. I worry about him. It's okay, sweetheart. We all care about him, Emily replied, squeezing her daughter's hand. Did he ever tell you about the heart attack 3 years ago? The doctors warned him about stress, Sarah continued, wiping her tears. But he never listened. Emily felt a wave of guilt wash over her. He loves us, but sometimes he doesn't know how to express it without going overboard. 3 weeks later, Mark was finally discharged from the hospital, but the doctors had advised him to take it easy. I'm fine, really. You're worrying too much, he insisted, though his face was still pale and he struggled to catch his breath. Mark, you need to listen to the doctors, Emily said gently, concern etched in her voice. I thought a getaway would do us good. Let's go to a quiet inn in the mountains, he suggested, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Are you sure that's wise? She asked, but the spark in his eyes was hard to resist. They arrived at the inn in the serene town of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, surrounded by lush greenery and a picturesque view of the lake. The atmosphere was tranquil, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just endured. As they settled into their room, Mark gazed out at the sunset, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. This is beautiful, he said, his voice soft. It really is, Emily agreed, sitting beside him. I'm glad we could get away together. I'm so grateful for you, Emily. Meeting you changed my life, he said, his profile illuminated by the fading light. I feel the same way, she replied, her heart swelling with affection. Dinner was served in their room, a delightful array of local cuisine. Mark poured a small glass of wine, looking at her with a playful grin. Just a little, right? Just a little, she echoed, though she could see the mischief in his eyes. You're stunning tonight, he said, his gaze intense. Thank you, she blushed, feeling the warmth of his admiration. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere shifted. Mark moved closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. Just once tonight, he murmured, leaning in. Mark, your health. She began, but his lips met hers softly, igniting a spark that made her heart race. The kiss deepened, and for a moment, all worries faded away. But then, suddenly, Mark pulled back, clutching his chest, his face paling. Mark! Emily gasped, panic flooding her. He collapsed, and she sprang into action, her training kicking in as she called for help, her heart racing as she fought to keep him alive. Stay with me, Mark. Help is on the way, she shouted, her hands trembling as she tried to remember everything she had learned. As the ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, Emily held on to hope, praying that this time, they would make it through together. As Emily held Mark's hand tightly, her heart raced with fear. Please, don't leave me, she whispered, her voice trembling. When they arrived at the hospital, the emergency surgery began immediately. In the waiting room, she prayed fervently, God, please let him be okay. Samantha, Mark's daughter, rushed in, her face a mask of worry. This is all my fault, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. If I hadn't pushed him so hard, he wouldn't be here. What are you talking about? Emily replied, confused. This isn't your fault. But it is. I've been so focused on my own life that I didn't see how stressed he was. We both should have seen it, Samantha sobbed, and they shared a moment of mutual grief, two women bound together by their love for Mark, each feeling the weight of responsibility. After what felt like an eternity, the surgeon emerged, looking exhausted. The surgery was successful, but he needs to take it easy from now on. If he doesn't, we might not be able to help him next time, the doctor warned, his words heavy with implication. In the intensive care unit, Mark lay connected to various machines, his face pale but peaceful. Emily squeezed his hand, and he stirred slightly, a faint smile breaking through his unconsciousness. Emily, you're here, he murmured weakly when he opened his eyes. Of course, I am. I'm not going anywhere, she replied, her heart swelling with love and relief. Tears welled in Mark's eyes. I love you so much. I just want to be with you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But you need to take care of yourself first, she urged, her brow furrowing with concern. You can't keep pushing yourself like this. Mark's gaze turned serious. I would do anything for you, even if it means risking my health. Emily felt a pang of fear. Was this love or an obsession? She didn't know the answer, but one thing was clear, they couldn't continue like this. For the next week, Emily visited Mark daily, her heart heavy with guilt. She had devoted her life to saving others as a nurse, yet here she was, putting the man she loved in danger. "You're here early again, Emily," said Yuta, a fellow nurse, as he passed her in the hospital corridor. "Mark really lights up when you're around." "That's the problem," she replied, her voice low. "Every time I'm here, he tries to do too much." When she entered Mark's room, he was reading a book propped up on his lap. "Hey, beautiful," he greeted her, a smile breaking through his fatigue. "How are you feeling?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Pretty good, actually. I think I could go home soon," he said, his eyes sparkling with hope. "Not yet. The doctor said you need at least 2 more weeks," she insisted, her tone firm. Mark frowned like a child denied a treat. 2 weeks? I can't stand being cooped up here. Mark, this is serious. You need to listen to the doctors, she said, her voice softening as she reached for his hand. I don't want to see you hurt again. He looked at her, his expression softening. Your hands are warm, he said, pulling her closer. Mine are still cold. That's because you're still recovering, she replied, rubbing his hand gently. Mark leaned in, his eyes sparkling with mischief. A kiss wouldn't hurt, would it? Here? In the hospital, she protested, pulling back slightly. Just one, he insisted, his eyes pleading. No, Mark. What if you get too excited, she said, her heart racing at the thought of crossing that line. Just then, Samantha entered, her expression brightening the room. Dad, how are you feeling today? Better, but I'm still stuck here, he replied, glancing at Emily with a hint of frustration. Samantha turned to Emily, her eyes searching. Can we talk for a minute? As they stepped into the hallway, Samantha's demeanor shifted. I love my dad, Emily. But you need to step back. If you're around, he'll never take it easy. Emily's heart sank. I know he loves me, but I can't just leave him. You don't understand. His love for you is overwhelming. It's not healthy, Samantha said, her voice trembling with emotion. Emily felt a wave of guilt wash over her. But I love him too. I can't just walk away. You have to think about his health. If you really love him, you'll let him heal, Samantha urged, her eyes pleading. That night, Emily sat alone in her apartment, the silence deafening. She loved Mark, but was her presence harming him? The thought gnawed at her, and she made a decision. Before heading to the hospital the next day, she wrote a letter, her hands shaking as she penned each word. I love you, Mark. That's why I have to leave. As long as I'm here, you'll push yourself too hard. I can't bear the thought of putting your life at risk. Please take care of yourself. With a heavy heart, she placed the letter on the table and packed her things. As she left the apartment, she glanced back at the place filled with memories, both painful and beautiful. Goodbye, she whispered, stepping into the unknown. 3 days later, Yuta called her with alarming news. Emily, Mark's heart is failing. He left the hospital looking for you. Panic surged through her as she hung up and rushed back to the hospital. When she arrived, chaos reigned. Where's Mark? She demanded, her voice frantic. On the roof, a nurse replied, and Emily sprinted toward the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. Bursting onto the rooftop, she found Mark standing near the edge, his face pale and tear-streaked. Emily, you came, he said, turning to her, his eyes filled with desperation. Why did you leave the hospital? You could have hurt yourself, she exclaimed, rushing to him. Without you, I have no reason to fight, he said, his voice breaking. I'd rather die than live without you. Don't say that, she cried, wrapping her arms around him tightly. I'm here now. Please, just stay with me. They both broke down, the cold wind whipping around them as they held each other, tears mixing with the rain. I promise I won't leave again, he said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. But you need to take care of yourself. We can figure this out together, she replied, pulling back to look into his eyes. Mark nodded, determination replacing despair. Let's find a way to live and love without risking everything. For the next 2 weeks, Mark returned to the hospital, this time with a renewed commitment to his health. Emily visited daily, maintaining a respectful distance, but their bond deepened with each passing moment. One afternoon, as they sat together, Mark broke the silence. Emily, I've been thinking about what love really means, he began, gazing out the window at the autumn leaves. I've always thought love meant giving everything, my time, my energy, even my life, he continued. But I realize now that it's not about that. My love for you was suffocating. Tears glistened in his eyes. I lost my family because I poured everything into my work, and now I almost lost you because of my overwhelming love. Emily took his hand, squeezing it gently. Your love is real, Mark. It just needs to be balanced. At that moment, Samantha entered, pushing a wheelchair. Dad, it's time for your outing, she said with a smile. An outing? Emily asked, intrigued. Just a little trip outside, Samantha replied, her eyes sparkling. Come on, Emily. Join us. As they made their way to the hospital courtyard, vibrant autumn flowers greeted them. Mark stood up from the wheelchair, a bit wobbly but determined. Emily, I need to do this, he said, kneeling before her. What are you doing? She asked, concern etched on her face. Just let me do this, he insisted, pulling out a small box from his pocket. Emily's heart raced as he opened it, revealing a delicate ring. Emily, will you be my partner in this journey? Not just in love, but in life? Tears filled her eyes as she nodded, overwhelmed with emotion. Yes, Mark. Always. Mark knelt before Emily, his heart racing as he opened the small velvet box. Inside lay a simple yet beautiful ring, glinting softly in the afternoon light. I want to propose to you again, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Last time, it was all about my feelings. This time, I want to hear yours. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, a depth of understanding that hadn't been there before. Mark, Please, let me finish, he interrupted gently. Will you live this life with me? On your terms, at your pace, whether it's every day, once a week, or once a month. I just want you to be there. Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded, overwhelmed by the transformation she had witnessed in him. Yes, Mark. Always. With trembling hands, he slid the ring onto her finger, and she felt a rush of warmth as he rose, supported by her steady presence. They embraced, not with the fervor of a passionate reunion, but with a quiet, profound connection that spoke of their journey together. Congratulations, Dad. Samantha's voice broke through the moment, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. I'm so happy for you both. Thank you, Sam, Mark replied, his voice thick with emotion. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm learning. I need Emily in my life. Samantha stepped closer, her expression softening. I'm sorry for being distant. I was just worried about you. But I see how much you've changed, and I'm glad. Emily reached out, taking Samantha's hand in hers. We're family now, and I promise to take care of him. That evening, as they settled into the hospital room, Mark turned to Emily with a playful smile. You know, the doctor said that moderate exercise is good for my heart. Moderate? What does that mean? Emily asked, raising an eyebrow. 3 times a week should be fine, he replied, a mischievous glint in his eye. Better than 5 times a day, right? They both laughed, the sound echoing in the room, a reminder of the joy they had found in each other. Just promise me we won't push too hard, she said, her tone serious. I promise, he replied, leaning in to kiss her hand gently. I want to spend as much time with you as possible. Let's start with a daily walk, he suggested. Just 30 minutes in the morning. We can talk, enjoy the fresh air. It sounds perfect. Emily smiled, her heart swelling at the thought. I'd love that. From that day forward, they began a new routine. Morning walks, afternoons spent helping Mark with his work, and quiet evenings together. Their love transformed from a fiery passion to a deep, abiding connection. 3 months later, as spring arrived, they found themselves back at a cozy inn in the mountains of Colorado, the same place where they had faced their darkest moments. We're in the same room, Mark said with a wink. Let's overwrite those bad memories with good ones. The cherry blossoms outside were in full bloom, their beauty breathtaking. It's stunning, Emily said, gazing out the window. You're even more beautiful, Mark replied, his voice warm and sincere. As they soaked in the hot springs, they were joined by Samantha, who had come for a family trip. I'm so glad you're both here, she said, her smile bright. Dad, you've really changed. Mark nodded, his expression thoughtful. I've learned what it means to love truly, and it's thanks to Emily. Dinner that night was filled with laughter and stories, a celebration of their newfound family. To health and happiness, Mark said, raising his glass of tea. Cheers. Samantha chimed in, her eyes sparkling. As the evening wore on, Mark stood up, his demeanor serious. I have an announcement. I'm retiring from my position next month. Gasps filled the room, but he continued, I want to focus on what truly matters, my time with Emily and our family. Samantha's eyes widened. That's amazing, Dad. And I want to start a new initiative, a program to help seniors find love, Mark added, glancing at Emily. There are so many who don't know how to connect. I'd love to help, Emily said, her heart swelling with pride for him. The night ended with Mark and Emily alone in their room, the soft glow of the bedside lamp illuminating their faces. Do you remember the first time we were here? Mark asked, a hint of a smile on his lips. How could I forget? I thought I might lose you, Emily replied, her voice soft. Yet here we are, stronger than ever, he said, pulling her closer. The doctor gave me good news. I could have another 10 years. 10 years is a long time, Emily said, her eyes shining. We can make so many memories. Exactly, Mark said, his smile brightening. And tonight, let's make it special. As they shared a tender kiss, the world outside faded away, leaving only the warmth of their connection. The next morning, Samantha teased them at breakfast. Did you sleep well? Very well, Emily replied, a knowing smile on her face. Good. I'm just glad to see you both so happy, Samantha said, her joy evident. As they walked home together, hand in hand, Mark turned to Emily. I'm grateful for you, now and always. Me too, she replied, her heart full. I want to be with you for as long as we can. Let's keep making memories, he said, his eyes sparkling with love. Through the cherry blossoms swirling around them, they knew they had finally found true love, a bond that would carry them through whatever life had in store. Every day, a walk, every week, a moment of love. It was simple, but it was everything they needed. In the end, love knows no age, only the ways it evolves and deepens over time. Mark, I'm so happy, Emily said, her laughter ringing out as they walked together, ready to embrace their new story. Subscribe to the channel,